all saving your voices. I see that. All right. Thank you for being here. It's an amazing event, and we're going to make it an epic for sure, right? So thank you for coming here and trying to share your journey with the audience here, and thanks for the parents and families who would be here soon. We have a very, very special guest who is here to give us a very warm welcome to you all. The wonderful special guest is none other than our president of Saginaw Valley State University, Dr. Grant. Please join me in welcoming him.
Good morning. Good seeing you all here this morning. And for those who are visiting the campus, I think we're at Bridgeport High School. Are you here? Make some noise, wave your hands, let me see you. All right, fantastic. Thank you all for being here. This is a wonderful annual event and a tradition that's part of this university. It was a student showcase. And it's all the work that students have put into their research and exploration and the work that they've put together for the projects that you see out front and that students are going to be talking about. This is some people refer to it as a passion project. It's something you're passionate about. It's something that you've had an interest in, and you've had a chance to now explore this and put it together in a way that others can understand. That part of the key to exploration is not only that you learn it, that you understand it, but that you can do it in such a way that others can understand it. And so we appreciate all the work that you've done into putting this together, doing that work, and then also taking the time to explain it in a way that others can understand. We're going to have an exciting time today. I think there's a lot of great information that's going to be presented to you, a chance to interact and talk. So welcome. For those who are off campus here, thank you for being here. Welcome to Saginaw Valley State University. We're the Cardinals, so we always say go Cards. So thank you all for being here, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, President, for your warm welcome. Now, students, I want to make a couple of announcements for you. So this is obviously the moment that you've all been waiting for to share your story, and we've been waiting for to hear your story. So with that being said, we want to make sure that we always want to present our best. There's a panel of judges who don't have a judging ID card or something, so they're going to be there out there. They will be kind of hidden, all right? So to everyone you meet, you'll be very professional and very respectful. And also, make sure the judges are here not only to evaluate your projects, but also to support your growth. I think that's something very key here. So please make sure to engage them thoroughly, and also make sure to let them know that how hard you worked for it. Don't be afraid of any roadblocks. I remember just talking to the president outside. There might be 99 failures, but there might be that one win. And here we are here today to celebrate that win. So please make sure to share your journey. And with all that being said, all right after this is going to be a very great guest speaker. Some of you may know him. Our faculties is never going to be able to miss him, because we kind of see him right from the day we joined this university. In our orientation, we have met him. And since then, he's been a very big part of our lives. So it is our great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, or some might say keynote speaker. That's Dr. Eric Trump. A little intro about him, okay? Dr. Eric Trump is the director for the Center of Excellence in Teaching and Learning at Saginaw Valley State University. Some of you might have seen him as a professor, and he's a professor of political science, so you may have seen him in a gen ed. Some majors would have seen him in some of his classes. And not sure if he's still continuing to teach, but I'm pretty sure if he's in his classroom, you could absolutely be engaged with him. His teaching interests are as interdisciplinary as they are creative, ranging from art and politics to American political thought to politics in literature and film. He co-authored several books on the politics of zoos. I really said that. Z-O-O-S, all right? So, and has since shifted his focus to the fascinating world of popular film, particularly how movies depict disaster, catastrophes, and apocalypses. Most recently, he collaborated with former SVSU student Jake Partle on the architecture of survival, setting and politics of apocalypse films published just this year. But I want to make sure you guys heard that word. He collaborated with a former SVSU student, which then means that even if you're thinking about graduation this May the 10th, right? Remember, you can always collaborate with your mentors as an SVSU alumni as well. So always the journey continues, it never stops here. So Dr. Eric Trump holds a PhD in American Studies from Boston University, and when he's not lecturing or writing, you might find him gardening, practicing yoga, diving into pop culture. Now the next one I'm about to say, everyone would know it. Obviously he does this, okay? Or exploring the possibilities of artificial intelligence. That's a no-brainer, all right? So please join me in giving a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Dr. Eric Trump.
Thank you so much, Rajani, for those very kind words. I feel like I'm not sure that my presentation is going to live up to your expectations that you set. And thank you, President Grant, for the warm welcome here this morning. And thank you to all of you for being here. I'm honored to be speaking before you. We're here to celebrate your achievements. Okay, just want to make sure that was up. Your intellectual and creative achievements, as well as to honor the faculty mentors who've been so generous with their time with you. My role today is actually kind of relatively minor, to entertain you a bit, provoke some thought, perhaps even inspire you over the next 20 or so minutes, and I'll be sure to leave time for you to go out and prepare for those presentations so that you'll impress the judges when they come around. So my lecture begins 3 decades ago when I was in graduate school, and during one of my summers, I went to visit my Uncle Dick, who was a very stern, very religious man, a former Marine turned pastor. He was the kind of guy that when he shook your hand, even if you're only 5 years old, he tried to crush all of your fingers, and he thought that was fun. And so he asked me at the end of this visit, he's like, yo, you're in graduate school and you're teaching students. Are you imparting moral lessons to them? I was kind of taken aback, and I hemmed and I hawed, and I said something to the effect, well, I'm not actually in the religious studies department. And he was not very impressed with my answer. So today, there are loud voices in the public sphere who are similarly questioning the value of a university education and questioning our values in general. And so what I would like to do today is to give an answer to my uncle that I didn't quite have 30 years ago. So my answer is that the interdisciplinary work that we, meaning you all, do in a university is not just an academic approach, but it's also a deeply moral and humanistic practice. An interdisciplinary mindset leads not only to scholarly and creative breakthroughs that you're showcasing today, but it also fosters the moral and ethical foundations of a better world, a better tomorrow. But what do I mean by interdisciplinary? So it comes from the Latin word. Any word that begins with inter comes from the Latin prefix inter, which happened to be my minor in college, which means between, among, or in the midst. It also indicates a reciprocal relationship between two things. There are lots and lots of English words that begin with inter. Interpersonal, international, interstate, interact. And you see at the university this word coming up frequently. You might participate in intramural sports. You might go to intercultural night. Or you might be in an interdisciplinary program. And let's just consider a word or two that begins with inter that is common in the university and kind of exemplifies this relationship. Intersectional describes how multiple identities, race, gender, class, ability intersect to shape a person's experience. But just as an intersectional lens shows us that you can't understand, say, something like gender discrimination without also understanding race and class, It also means that interdisciplinary work demands that we don't treat academic fields, biology, chemistry, physics, English, as completely isolated lanes. Real problems, problems like public health or the ethics of AI, live in the overlap of disciplines. Cultivating an intersectional mindset trains us to look for those overlaps and to design solutions that address the full complexity of the human experience. So at SVSU, oops, it seems like it's out of order. Let's just go for it anyway. Pair and share. I was going to work an activity in here. So some of you know each other, but maybe you don't. So say hi to your neighbor and take a second just to share an example of something that you've learned outside of your primary field that actually turned out to be useful to you. So maybe you're an English major, but you learned something in a math class that helped you do some analysis, literary analysis, or something that just proved interesting to you in a personal way. And if you don't want to do that, you can get on your phone and you can go on YouTube and you can look for the film Easy Rider so that you'll understand the first picture that I showed. So go ahead, take a minute or two, be noisy, right? And then we'll get back to the presentation. Okay, so you might not have had time to watch the entire Easy Rider movie, but if you do get a chance to go back and look for Easy Rider, I do recommend it. As Rajani pointed out, yes, I love interdisciplinary work. My graduate degree in American Studies was interdisciplinary. It combined art history, literature, history, and politics, and Native American studies. My courses are interdisciplinary. But what I'd like to think about is how, even here at the university, your work is interdisciplinary. And so no field stands alone today, right? You might actually be in a real interdisciplinary program here at SVSU, like international studies or environmental studies and sustainability. Here you would take courses from multiple disciplines, weaving together those different disciplinary perspectives to answer questions related to the question of environmental sustainability, for example. You're actively integrating the methods, the concepts in these questions to address questions that are so complex that no single discipline alone can solve them. Obviously, environmental sustainability is not something that a single discipline can solve. It involves biologists, it involves chemists, it involves political scientists, sociologists, even historians. So interdisciplinary programs teach us to think across boundaries, to make connections, and to approach problems from multiple angles, preparing us for the kinds of challenges that we might face in graduate school or in the real world. Or perhaps here at SVSU, you've worked on a formal interdisciplinary team to solve a real-world problem. Many of those teams are represented in the program today: the Roberts Fellows, the Badito Fellows, the Cardinal Racing Team, the Entrepreneurship Institute. One of my favorites is Cardinal Solutions, a program that brings together students from multiple disciplines: graphic design, computer science, marketing, to solve problems, real-world problems for local nonprofit organizations, things like designing an app to interact with their clients. I recommend today that you go to the poster sessions and talk to the BATS presenters, right? BATS, I'll let them explain what BATS stands for, to learn about how they drew on their various disciplinary perspectives to address needs for the Mustard Seed, a local women's shelter. Make a game of today. Go and see how many majors are represented at each of the posters or presentations that you go to, and I think that you'll find in many cases there are collaborators from across different disciplines working together. You might protest, well, my major isn't interdisciplinary because I'm a biology major, or I'm a physics major, or I'm an English major. But I would ask you, are you sure? I think if you look closely at your courses, what you're going to find is that many of them are themselves interdisciplinary. You might be in a biochemistry course. You might be registered for my literature, film, and politics course this fall. Maybe you're an electrical engineer, computer science engineer, but you're working on an aquaponics system to increase food production. Anytime that you apply concepts from one field to another, you are doing interdisciplinary work. That biochem course blends biology and chemistry to solve problems in medicine and environmental science. Designing an aquaponics food system, that process draws from engineering, it draws from ecology, agriculture, and even sociology. The truth is, interdisciplinary opportunities, right, and I use the word opportunities here purposefully, are all around you at SVSU. If you can just learn to see past the superficial divisions and structures that we put in place, the silos that say Gen Ed has 10 categories, the silo that says this is my major and this is my minor and this is my other minor. All of those divisions are necessary from an organizational perspective, but in truth, right, those aren't really barriers. You might perceive general education as simply something to get out of the way, right? I've only got 2 more to go and then I'm done with it. But nothing prevents you, and it's not an interdisciplinary program, right? It is 10 categories, but nothing prevents you from making the connections between Category 4 and Category 6, from taking a concept you learn in Category 3 and applying it in a project you're doing in Category 10. Similarly, when you take a minor to go along with your major, there's no formal request or requirement that you integrate those two. But in that minor, look for opportunities to discover things that you can connect with your major. The departments, the programs, the courses into which the university is superficially divided, try and break free of those. The more you recognize that these divisions are superficial, the more you can lean into an interdisciplinary perspective. You'll make your education not just broader, but deeper and more connected to the real world. Because at its core, and this is what I should have told my uncle years ago, a university education nudges you to make connections outside your primary field of study in order to make the world a better place. Okay, so these silos that I talked about. I mentioned that university's structure, individual academic departments are often described as silos. But what's a silo exactly, and why are silos perceived as problematic? Why do we need to break free of silos? Because if we think about a farm, on a farm, a silo is basically used to store a single kind of grain, soybeans or corn or wheat, each in its own silo, keeping each one separate and distinct from the other grains, which makes sense, right? In agriculture, we want to maintain the distinctions and the spaces between those. But when we use silo as a metaphor for academic departments, we're usually being critical with that term. We mean that those units, biology, histology, right, notice the ChatGPT, thank you, misspelling, art, they can become so self-contained that they resist collaboration, even meaningful dialogue with other disciplines. They focus inward, developing deep but narrow expertise that may undervalue other perspectives or methods from outside of the field. That's the risk with siloed departments. Now, to be fair, right, the metaphor isn't entirely accurate. I've already suggested that departments do encourage students to take courses elsewhere, and that there are even interdisciplinary programs. But the term silo sticks because it captures a real tension, the risk of intellectual isolation. When disciplines wall themselves off, or when we wall ourselves off within a discipline, we miss opportunities to address complex problems that don't respect academic boundaries. And we can see this in the real world outside of the university, where silos are strongly associated with negative traits. They're associated with political partisanship and narrow thinking. You may have heard about echo chambers in political silos created by social media, algorithms that group all of your social media, all of your news into what they think you want to hear. So we don't hear from other perspectives. We hear from only those perspectives that we think in advance we're going to agree with. The word silo is often pairs naturally with negative connotations such as narrow, isolated, self-contained. In the business world, siloed organizations can prevent growth and innovation. In these contexts, silos are a moral problem. They limit understanding, they discourage collaboration, and they make it harder to solve the shared problems that we have as a society. Some examples. When DeepMind was struggling to get its very powerful AI system to solve a protein folding problem, it hit a wall. As great as the AI was, it couldn't solve the protein folding problem. And so the team looked at itself and it said, well, what's the problem with our team? And like, oh, we're all computer scientists and mathematicians. Let's bring some biologists on board. And they brought a biologist on board, and magically, they solved the protein folding problem. Large language models themselves, even if they occasionally misspell history, they were made possible, right, because computer scientists said, what would be a model of the mind that we want to use? And initially, they were looking at a mathematical model of the mind, and it wasn't working that well. So like, well, what do neuroscientists know about thinking and how brains work? And they went to neuroscientists, and that allowed the sort of insight that creates ChatGPT and all the other AIs that you might be using today. So silos are perceived as bad partly because they prevent innovation. But because I like pop culture, if you really want to understand how bad silos are, just watch movies that have silos in them, right? Because in those movies, silos are usually places where there's death, fear, and violence. They tend to symbolize isolation, entrapment, and deadly danger, usually in connection with the movie's larger themes, such as the movie Silo, the series Silo on Apple. Usually, nothing good happens in a silo in a movie unless your vision of the good life involves being buried in corn, right? So we intuitively know that silos might be great for storing grain, but humans thrive on emotional connections. Politically, intellectually, socially, we must collaborate. So if you don't want to drown in corn, right, what do? You embrace interdisciplinary thinking. We embrace interdisciplinary thinking. We open those silo doors. This doesn't mean abandoning our depth and our expertise. We still develop the expertise in the mathematical science. We still develop the expertise in literature. But we open the door to the other disciplines and reach across because we become enriched through those connections. So interdisciplinary thinking is really silo busting. The inter prefix invites us to embrace connections, to resist hierarchy. Oh, my major is better than your major, more important. And to nurture both personal and collective discovery. These are ethical and they're uniquely human tasks. In interdisciplinary thinking, it isn't just practical, right? Many of our practical problems have ethical dimensions to them. It's fundamentally ethical. It recognizes the dignity and worth of knowledge from all disciplines, from all fields. It honors varied perspectives. When nurses do their interdisciplinary practice, what they're doing is they're collaborating with social workers, with physicians, and with therapists, and they're exemplifying an ethical commitment to the holistic care of their human patients. When engineers seek input from community activists and environmental scientists, they're practicing a moral responsibility, building an infrastructure that serves the common good rather than narrow commercial interests, as you can see with the Engineering for One Planet movement, which is really gaining a foothold here on the SVSU campus. Historical figures exemplify and model this ethical dimension. One of my favorites, Alexander von Humboldt, originally trained as a geologist, right? But he approached the global study of nature with humility, and he was aware of the genuine understanding required collaboration and conversation across disciplines. He spoke often with his good friend Goethe, who is a writer. And his humanistic curiosity produced insights valuable to both scientists and philosophers, emphasizing interconnectedness long before an ecological ethics, for which he's famous, became mainstream. He took inspiration from poets, and later artists took inspiration from his work. Most of you all are pretty young, so you probably are too young to remember when you turned on a computer and the letters on the screen were really oddly spaced and square. They were functional rather than aesthetic. Then along came Steve Jobs, who happened while he was in college, in university at Reed College, to have taken a calligraphy course, which really, really influenced him. So when he set up the Apple Computer Company and he was designing an interface, he's like, we need to change the way that interface looks because it's not human enough. Human beings want to be connected with the machines that they interact with. And so he put a team together to figure out how to create a font like the one you see on the right of this screen that looks more like what we see in print. And today, it would be unthinkable for you not to have access to hundreds and hundreds of fonts on your computer, but that was thanks to his inspiration from a completely different discipline of calligraphy. Moreover, the Apple logo itself, right, that bite out of the apple, clearly inspired by or recalls Genesis. It symbolizes knowledge, myth, curiosity, a kind of an interdisciplinary fusion that reminds us that technology divorced from ethics and humanity risks harming us rather than helping us. Or we'll go just like really basic. Most of you probably arrived at the university today in an automobile, right? A car of some kind, maybe a bus if you came from a high school. So consider the collaboration that was required to build that car. Almost every single discipline was involved. Mechanical, electrical, and computer engineers for the systems that actually make it move. Physicists, biologists, and chemists for the science behind the materials within that car. Geologists and geographers to locate those materials. Psychologists, anthropologists, sociologists, historians, and artists to craft a design that resonates with our time and place and culture. Acoustical engineers to shape how it sounds inside and outside. Nurses and kinesiologists to ensure driver comfort and safety in the event of a crash. Accountants to calculate the costs. Managers to coordinate the work of all of these teams. Marketers to persuade you to actually buy the car. And lawyers to protect intellectual property and manage liability. Some people say it takes a village to raise a child, but I'd say it takes a university to build a car. So yes, building a car is a deeply interdisciplinary endeavor. And within these interdisciplinary teams, the individuals themselves often have a very interdisciplinary mindset. They like to think across boundaries. They're people whose curiosity, education, and experience allows them to connect ideas in ways that no single discipline alone could. And that's the power of interdisciplinary thinking in action. But it also has just some personal value. You probably experienced the power yourself. I'll bet you know a physicist who also sings in the church choir. You probably know a chemist who writes poetry, a politician who paints, like Winston Churchill, an accountant who practices astrophotography, and so on and so forth. Interdisciplinary interests are personally fulfilling. They tend to connect us with other people in non-professional ways that are fulfilling. They enrich our humanity. They nurture our curiosity and empathy about other people and other places. And they open us to experiences beyond our immediate domain. If you're not convinced, maybe I can persuade you with a return on investment argument. There was a recent announcement that OpenAI is going to be releasing a model that they claim is proficient in, quote, interdisciplinary reasoning. Quote, blending fields humans struggle to connect. And for this amazing new model, this interdisciplinary model, they're going to charge $20,000 per month. So clearly, the interdisciplinary skills that you all have been developing that are all on display outside in the hall and the classroom presentations that are coming, those skills are valuable. So don't forget to use them as negotiating points when you're negotiating your first salary. So finally, I just want to conclude with maybe a couple of practical steps that you can take to continue your journey of building these interdisciplinary skills both here at the university and beyond. Because every interaction that you have is a chance to break down a silo, whether it's a personal silo or a professional silo or a disciplinary silo. And here's what I'm suggesting you do. Turn every assignment into a mini interview. Right? You have an assignment in a class. When you're doing your research on it, write down 5 questions that you'd ask an expert in some other field than the one that you're actually writing about. And then go and find those people on campus, in a lab, in a studio, in their office, and ask them. Because those insights, they may not shape exactly what you do, but they could expand your thinking in very unexpected and valuable ways. And then second, be curious all the time. To become successful scholars and ethical citizens, we need to cultivate curiosity. Look for questions, always and everywhere. Approach every personal interaction as an opportunity to bridge silos. Asking respectful, thoughtful questions makes other people feel valued and respected. And it's pretty fun. So my closing thought is, remember, specialization sharpens your tools, but interdisciplinary habits help you use those tools ethically and compassionately. Break down silos, ask thoughtful questions, and build connections wherever your journey takes you. And in doing so, you'll nurture not just a richer intellect for yourself, but a kinder, more humane society. So my challenge for you all today is practice this interdisciplinary mindset in the showcase when you're interacting with people this afternoon and this morning. Thank you all very much for hearing me out. I appreciate it.
You can go to your respective spaces, so please go ahead. I think the event has pretty much started. If you want to go gather in your poster or your oral presentation rooms and get started. We are going to start exactly at 10 o'clock, the oral presentations, but families are welcome to talk, but your judges will be there at your posters and oral presentation at 10 o'clock only. So meanwhile, go ahead, have the breakfast that's out there, and get some drinks because you need that, all right? So, and get started. I'll see you all there. Thank you very much.
All right. That's right. Thank you and welcome to the 2025 SVSU Student Showcase. This first group is a group of students from Music 312, which is the last course in our 4-semester theory sequence called Musical Analysis. And throughout the sequence, we work on composing music in a variety of styles and using different examples. Especially in this last semester, we really branch out into a whole bunch of different styles. In particular, this project was looking at 20th and 21st century compositional techniques. And there's just so many to choose from. So each student was tasked with picking just a couple of items, a couple of strategies from new music and applying them to a chamber composition. So you might hear some things like atonality or bitonality or modality. You might hear mixed meters. You might hear elements of improvisation or aleatoricism. You might hear elements of minimalism. There's just a whole vast world of new musical techniques that have come around in the last 100+ years that we've been looking at. So each one of these students wrote their own composition. The group will play each 5 pieces in order, so we hope you enjoy. Hello. As all of you already know me, I'm Victor McDonald. Most of you already know, but I was allowed the opportunity to, over the last semester, work with Dr. Wika and the SVSU Concert Band and conduct a piece with them. So this is just going to be a little bit about that process and what actually went into the whole semester leading up to actually conducting the piece this last Wednesday. So it kind of started, it was kind of like a whole process over the last 3 years. So this is my third year in the SVSU Concert Band. So I've seen other students get this opportunity. And when I see that, I went, oh, that's kind of cool. That'd be something that I'd like to do. So I went to Dr. Wika over this past fall semester, and I went to him and expressed my interest in the opportunity to do that. And we both agreed that it'd be a pretty good next step for me, and we both agreed that it would be a good opportunity. So we set up the independent study and got going on it. Shortly after that, the first step came around, which was honestly more difficult than I thought it would be, and that's actually selecting the piece that I was going to conduct. In past classes, as many of you probably have done or are doing, we make programs for hypothetical ensembles, but it's different when you're actually going to conduct it with an actual ensemble, because you have to think, well, am I going to be able to do that? Are they going to be able to do that? Do we have the people? Do we have the instruments to do that? So the piece that I ended up doing wasn't even my first choice. It was second or third on the list. But we ended up going with Accolade by William Himes, and we both agreed that that was probably the best fit for me and the band. A little bit about Accolade and William Himes. So William Himes, he's a composer-arranger from Michigan. He got his bachelor's degree in music ed from the University of Michigan, and then later went on to teach at U of M Flint as the low brass instructor. He wrote this piece about one of his friends, Paul, I can't remember his name, I'm blanking on the name right now, but he taught in Farmington, Michigan, for 37 years. He wrote this piece in memory of him. They met at U of M when they were both taking classes there. But yeah, so the cool bit about this piece is actually that it has a bit of the U of M fight song, Victors, in it, which is a cool name for a fight song, I have to say. Yeah, but so after I actually chose the piece, we got it on order, and when it came in, I took it home over winter break, did some overall score study, so looking for things like big entrance points, cadence points, dynamic shifts, stuff like that. And I came back this semester with all of that prepared, and me and Dr. Wika started meeting on Tuesdays, and then I'd conduct on Wednesday. So our first meeting was before the first time I went up unconducted, and in that meeting we kind of talked about the whole part whole form, and that would kind of lead me and guide me through the rest of the semester. And that form, basically what it means is at the start of the semester you should be looking at the whole piece, getting an idea of how it flows, everything like that, until you work down to the middle of it where you're working on the smallest of details and then back out to the whole. So following that form, the first time I went up to conduct, basically all I did was run the piece as well as we could make it happen with the band coming back and getting all together and getting used to playing together. But yeah, I just wanted to get the band to know how the piece went, what to expect, and where to expect it. And that went as well as it could go, sight reading the piece. After that, throughout the meetings over the semester, I would bring some stuff that I would want to work on with the band and some stuff that I'd want to work on myself. So either stuff like my conducting gesture, rehearsal strategies, anything like that. me and Dr. Rika would go over that, and we'd find the best ways to execute those things, or find some stuff that I could go home and work on and prepare myself for the next time. So as we went through that process, working down to the middle of the semester, we would find the smallest of details that we could to make the overall piece as good and as fluid as possible. And so a lot of that time was spent doing the smallest things over and over again until we finally made them concrete and got them locked in. Then working back into the end of the semester, we honestly spent most of the time, or I honestly spent most of the time, just making sure that those tiny details were still put back into context, and that there weren't any big speed bumps or road bumps that came into play when implementing those. And then once we got everything solidified, it was just in time for the concert. And when that rolled around, it was actually I was kind of surprised. So normally when I would go to perform, I'd get pretty nervous. I struggle with performance anxiety, and that was something that I was expecting to have to combat on stage here. And I didn't really find a lot of that. When I first walked on the stage, I was a little nervous. I had never conducted in front of an audience before, so it was kind of weird. But I kind of turned around and saw the ensemble, and it just kind of felt like a normal rehearsal, just everybody was in black that time, so it was a little weird, but other than that, it was pretty normal. And, I gave the big downbeat to start the song, and it went from there. To me, it felt like a normal rehearsal. I didn't know anybody was standing behind me or sitting behind me, watching me. It just felt normal. It went through. I think the ensemble played very, very well, and when it came to cut off at the end, that's when I was reminded that there were people behind us, or behind me, in front of them, and people started clapping and stuff like that. But no, it was really nice to see everything come together and be played so well, and it was really, I felt like an overwhelming sense of joy seeing that whole semester come together in just that little bit. I prepared a video, but before we watch that, I did just want to thank the members and just SVSU's concert band as a whole, and Dr. Rika. Conductors can't conduct nobody. It's kind of hard to do that. So being in that position, dealing with me all semester, it's nice to be able to do that and be able to have that opportunity. But yeah, we're going to watch the video. It's just so you guys can see what it all came out to be. Yeah, so I just wanted to say again, thank you for the to the SVSU Concert Band and the members of that ensemble for dealing with me all semester, and thank you, Dr. Rika, for mentoring me for the semester. But yeah, thank you for coming out and listening to me. Yeah, thank you.